Tonight, government training on cyber risk assessment Octave Allegro. Cabinet confirms superannuation scheme to resume. Good evening and whakaloflayatu. I'm Soraya Mangawa and this is your BCN News. Leading our news tonight, Niue currently has 9 active cases of COVID-19. In the past 24 hours, 5 new cases were detected, according to yesterday's update on the Niue COVID dashboard. Members of the public are continued to be advised to practice and maintain precautionary COVID-19 measures and to get tested if you feel unwell. Health officials are also informing the public that if you attended the Lakepa Ekalesia pastor induction last Wednesday, the church service on Sunday, or the funeral service on Monday this week at the Lakepa Ekalesia Church, health officials are advising to monitor your symptoms in the next few days. Here's more on this story. Since March 2022 last year, when the island detected its first historical case of COVID-19, a total of 755 cases has been recorded since then. 747 of the cases have been recovered. Members of the public are continued to be advised to remain vigilant and to monitor for COVID-like symptoms such as a cough, runny nose, sore throat, or feeling fatigued. If experiencing such symptoms, complete a rapid antigen test. Contact the Niue Public Health Department immediately if results are positive. Otherwise, if you need further assistance for COVID tests. For more information, it can also be found on the official Niue COVID website at covid19.gov.nu. The 174 public servants without superannuation cover will be glad to know that they can start contributing to their super. This news was delivered by Premier Dalton Tangilangi on the News of the Week radio program last Friday. According to the Premier, a special account will be set up at the Treasury Department for the superannuation contributions. Here's more on this story.
Premier Tangilangi said that the new superannuation scheme has been approved by the Cabinet. The lawyers and government officials are ironing out the last few details of the scheme, but the public servants should still be able to begin their contribution. The employee will contribute 5% and the employer 3%, but the employee may increase their contribution higher than 5%. It was the government's intention to offer his scheme to the employees of the private sector, but that is yet to be confirmed at this stage. For now, the public servants who since 2016 were not part of any super scheme can now begin their contributions.
Obstetrician and gynecologist Dr. Anna Marie van der Merwe is no foreign specialist to Niue, especially for the women. As per year, Dr. Anna makes a regular visit to the island to conduct health checkups with the women and their health issues, specifically on the female reproductive system. BCN News spoke with Dr. Anna this morning, who shared her role with Niue and how long she has been working with Niue Full Hospital.
I've been coming here since 2016. I first came with Dr. Kara Okusene, who everybody knows very well, who works with me at Counties Manukau as an obstetrician and a gynecologist at Middlemore. So that was my first trip, and then I came in 2017, 18, 2019, and unfortunately because of COVID, sort of skipped 2021 and then came back August last year for a visit. But that was a short visit, that was just a week, and I sort of realized that there's a lot more work to be done, so I decided to come back this year in February as well.
Dr. Anna told BCN News that one of the significant increases or changes seen over the years is the amount of women with heavy flow menstrual cycles.
I think in terms of increasing numbers of women I see with period problems and heavy menstruation, so that has definitely increased, and I'm not sure whether it's just because people didn't know that I was coming and didn't come for a visit, or whether that's actually an increase. So I'm going to sort of look at my research and my numbers and data I've collected to see if that's the case, but I feel sort of that's increased quite a lot.
Dr. Anna arrived on the island last Tuesday and since then has been seeing up to 15 women each day.
So on average, probably been seeing about 12 to 15 women a day. Unfortunately, my colleague couldn't come with me, because usually I bring a colleague with me, and then obviously we can see a lot more women and see women a lot faster. But because of the initial flight that couldn't land for two tries, we then sort of missed quite a few days with that first week. So I only arrived here on the Tuesday. We could only start working on Wednesday, and my colleague decided not to come and stay back because she had another job to go to. So, but yeah, on average about 12 to 15 patients a day, and then I try to provide the care as we go. So if patients need any procedures or need anything done, I try and do it as we go.
Dr. Anna will be departing the island tomorrow and is looking to return back to Niue for another visit next year. A team of New Zealand government representatives are on the island this week to deliver training in support of Niue's developing Protective Security Requirements PSR framework. The participants at the training being held at the scenic Matavai over the past 2 days received a training in the use of cyber risk assessment methodology called Octave Allegro. BCN News understands as well that another training will take place in July this year. Here's more on this story.
The outcome of the training has been to identify and to mitigate risks and threats to the security of Niue government information, thus protecting all of Niue's residents. The increased connectivity Niue has experienced with the Manatua cable has presented great opportunities for people, businesses and government. It also presents great risks to the security of personal, corporate and public sector information from threats such as cybercrime and hacking. Niue is partnering with the New Zealand government to develop the capability to identify and mitigate against those risks and to create a framework for the secure handling of protected government information. The training is conducted with funding from the New Zealand Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade and support from the Niue Public Service Commission. At the conclusion of the training, the participants will be presented with certificates by the trainer Chris Ward, a qualified Software Engineering Institute instructor and Managing Director of Cyber 365.
Local scientist and acting director of the SPC's climate change program, Carol Pasisi, on Tuesday this week delivered a paper to the United Nations Security Council Ministerial High-Level Open Debate on threats to international peace and security. Sea level rise, the implications on peace and security. Here's more on this story.
Carol Pasisi informed the Security Council that her presentation is heavily informed from a small island developing state's lens and from her experience as a Pacific Islander.
My experience is heavily informed from a SIDS lens, in particular the Pacific Islands, from whence I was born, have worked and lived my whole life to date, and intend to do so for its remainder. By 2050, within the lifetime of our children and grandchildren, sea level rise will have exceeded at least 1 metre for most SIDS, and this will last for thousands of years. In addition, the current 1 in 100 year extreme sea level event will be experienced every single year. Of course, there are many other scary projections as well, but even just because of these ones alone, sea level rise and climate change impacts present both a direct security threat as well as a threat multiplier to individuals, communities, provinces, nations, and certainly to our region as a whole, the Blue Pacific continent. Regardless of whether this is acknowledged by any international body or individual state does not change that fact. A threat to one's security is best defined by the lens of those who are impacted, not by those who continue to be most responsible for its cause.
Pasisi thanked one of the member countries of the Council, the country of Malta, for the invitation for her to present a paper providing the perspective of the civil society organizations. There are 15 members of the UN Security Council, 5 permanent members, the USA, China, Russia, France, and the United Kingdom. The other 10 members are elected to the Council from the UN General Assembly to serve 2-year terms. These countries are Albania, Brazil, Ecuador, Gabon, Ghana, Guatemala, Japan, Malta, Mozambique, Switzerland, and the United Arab Emirates. Koropasisi is also the president of local NGO Tofia Niue, and this will be the second time she has presented to the Security Council, the first being in June of 2020. BCN News will speak with Coral upon her return to the island about the outcome of her presentation at the United Nations Security Council Ministerial High-Level Open Debate on the threats to international peace and security and the implications of sea level rises.
56-year-old Ataleo Tawetonga Mafileo Siakia was laid to rest on Monday afternoon this week at her home in Lakapa. A beautiful service was held for her final resting place, which took place at the Lakapa Ecclesia Church. Families and friends and loved ones gathered together in her memory to remember a kind woman and a leader for her village and community. Here's more on this story. Ataleo Siakia was the first woman to chair the Avasele Village Council, said former Minister and Member of Parliament Billy Talangi in his speech during her funeral service on Monday this week. She was also one of the founding members of the National Disability Organisation, the Niue Tolomaki Aulaw Association. The association's president paid tribute to Ata, who was the long-serving treasurer of the NTAA since its inception in 2011. One of Ata's most well-known roles is her work with the bank. In her speech as the work representative, Vaine Pansisi shared Ata's long-serving work history since she started working at the bank until recently.
Mafi was a banker at heart and has been a banker all her life, except for a small portion of her working journey, where she left banking and joined her husband, Trevor, when he went for his studies at the University of the South Pacific in Fiji. Prior to this trip, Mafi's banking career started with Niue's first commercial bank, Westpac Banking Corporation, in the late 80s. Rosalini Bilitaki and I had the privilege of working with Mafi during Westpac's time here in Niue. When she came back from Fiji, Westpac had left in late 2004, following Cyclone Hata in January of the same year. The Bank of South Pacific, BSP, was in service to Niue and its people at this time, so Mafi, naturally being a banker at heart, applied and was accepted. Mafi, together with the Bank of South Pacific, served Niue and its people for 8 years, until another change to the Niue banking world came about in 2013. An agency under the name of Niue Commercial Enterprises Limited was formed, and this agency was to become an agent for Kiwi Bank, who is serving us today.
Mrs. Ata Siakia was diagnosed with stage 4 bowel cancer in New Zealand in 2022 and underwent treatment, but the treatment was unsuccessful. She and the family returned to Niue on Tuesday last week and passed away 6 days later. She leaves behind her husband Trevor and their 4 children. Water supply problems continue to affect some of the villages on the northern and eastern side of the island. Over the weekend, the rescue fire appliances were used again to cart water to fill the water reservoir tank that supplies the village of Hikutavake and the nearby areas of Waipapahi and Malekau.
In a message to the Village Council Group, the Director of Infrastructure, Clinton Chapman, said that for the village of Hikutavake and Central Means, Waipapahi and Malekau, your supply bore pump is out of action. Replacement plan for tomorrow. Hikutavake tank is being fueled by water carts for supply. The village of Lakapa has had intermittent water supply issues since last week. Chapman said that a generator was delivered to the Lakapa water pour, but is asking people not to touch the controls of the water pumps and the generator. Director of Utilities is calling on members of the public to please conserve water, and if leaks are identified, to please contact the Water Division of the Department of Utilities as soon as possible.
World Radio Day was commemorated and celebrated throughout the globe on Monday this week, the 13th of February. For Niue, Radio Sunshine has been the main radio station for the island since 1967. According to UNESCO, radio is the most widely consumed medium in the world. Here's more on this story.
Proclaimed in 2011 by the member states of UNESCO and adopted by the United Nations General Assembly in 2012 as the International or the World Radio Day, February 13th. Radio is a powerful medium for celebrating humanity in all its diversity and constitutes a platform for democratic discourse. At the global level, radio remains the most widely consumed medium. BCN News spoke to one of the radio producers from the Pacific Media Network in New Zealand. Fa'ama Viliamu is the producer of the Niue radio program 531 PI about the significance of radio to their listeners, the diaspora of Niueans living abroad.
UNESCO actually indicated that more people listen to the radio than any other medium. And that goes with digital media and all the other bits and pieces in between. Radio is still number one for people around the world to use. And the main reason for that is because not everyone has access to digital platforms or the internet, but everyone has pretty much access to the good old radio, as they say. And that's been from the beginning. Prior to all the fancy gadgets that we have nowadays, we're still using radio from that time to now, as we all know. So it's actually quite interesting that in radio today, of course, radio has moved with the modern, some of the modern advances, because you have to. So at the moment, we have our radio program, PMN Niue in New Zealand. So we use the radio, but we also broadcast on the social media, like the Facebook, at the same time, simultaneously, so that people who don't have radios can listen online. And that's the beautiful thing about what we're doing today with radio and our digital media platform. And of course, through the internet nowadays, we reach our Niuean audience right around the world, in Australia, England, wherever there are Niueans, they can tune in to 531 PI on our Facebook channel or our main Facebook channel for Pacific Media Network.
Fa'ama Viliamu says that radio is one way that they can promote and uphold the protection of the Wangahau Niue, a significant part of their program.
Language is key. It's key to the way that we run our programs and how we utilize our Wangahau on the program. That is most important to us, not only in terms of having to use Wangahau during the program, but also ensuring that Wangahau is kept current for our future generations. At PMN, Pacific Media Network, we have 10 language programs, including Niue. And the reason why we have those programs, Fiji, Tonga, Samoa, Cook Islands, Kiribati, Tokelau, and other stations, is to help maintain the use of our languages and our culture. Because there isn't any other medium in New Zealand that can do that except PMN, Pacific Media Network. There's no other Niuean programs that we can utilize to run the programs and utilize our language. But we do have a segment now that we use, which is a bilingual segment, and that we use English and Niuean and our Niue language. And the reason why we do that, because our young and future generations now need to be kept informed of what's happening, and that's why we use English and Wangahau Niue, both in one. But beyond that, and that's only from 3 to 6. From 6 onwards till 2 o'clock the next morning, predominantly we use Wangahau Niue. And we don't play any other songs except Niuean songs throughout the whole program.
Radio continues to be one of the most trusted and used media in the world, according to different international reports. We take this opportunity to thank former and current staff of Radio Sunshine that provide free-to-air public radio service to the island since 1967.
And that concludes our news bulletin for tonight. Do join us again next week, Tuesday and Thursday, for more of our local news. Until then, wishing you all a safe weekend. Stay safe, happy and positive. Good night.